You're listening to the Wrestling Philosophy Show, where we talk wrestling perspectives and beliefs. Check us out on social media, including video shows on YouTube and audio on podcast platforms. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with us, Terry. Truly an awesome story, hearing the setbacks and the perseverance you had to make Legends of Gold work, and the powers that be that inspired you to pick up and make it happen in South Dakota. What an awesome story. Thanks for sharing. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. How you doing today, Terry?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thanks for taking time. Sorry about last week, couldn't connect. That's on me, but I'm glad we connected today. So,
Same.
Yeah, give our listeners just a kind of 30-second quick pitch on what Legends of Gold is, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I guess the quick pitch would be that we were one of the few integrated facilities in the country that have senior level athletes all the way down to kindergarten beginners. So we range in all three styles: freestyle, Greco, and folk style. So I think that's probably the thing that sets us apart is we'll actually have senior level guys wrestling in the room sometimes beside a 5-year-old. So I think that's a short piece.
Cool. So it's, an academy of sorts. You have, athletes staying in the dorms there, correct?
Yeah, right now we have 16 athletes that are living on campus right now. Those ages range between 6th grade, and we have a couple senior level guys that are here right now as well training.
Okay. What was the initial thought process or the initial spark that kind of led to Legends of Gold?
When I was in Kansas, I was working with Paul Tyne, and I just started the new college program at Neosho. And we really noticed that there was like a funding piece that was missing with a lot of the new programs. So we started a painting with Dan Gable, Kenny Monday, Brands, a couple of the other guys, Schultz. We worked with Nancy, and we sold paintings, and we took all the money and we put it back to start other college wrestling programs in the country.
Wow.
So we donated all that back to other programs, and that's how we came up with the name Legends of Gold. And then I was coaching at the college, and I saw a need for youth wrestling, and we're like, well, what a great name. We'll tie that name in. And that was in 1990. And, and it's just carried itself through to a whole different level now, obviously, but that's where it started and came from anyway.
Okay. So did you coach Dean Taylor there then?
I did, yeah.
So
Dean wrestled for me.
My college roommate was from Delta, and I've obviously grown up again, small school Delta, so long line of history of Delta, but he was an athlete and a half, and he didn't look the part, but he was tougher than nails.
Oh my gosh.
Still is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I remember meeting him at high school nationals, and and I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, where's this kid at? He's a stud. And I looked over and this kid's getting ready to wrestle. I'm like, I'm sure that's not him. He's that kid about to get killed. And then this just goes out and starts kicking the crap out of people. I'm like, dude, who is this dude? Oh, wait, that's Dean Taylor. But that was before there was all the track wrestling and all those kind of things, So we did all that stuff back then by paper.
Yeah, he doesn't look the part, but he definitely is. He still is tough. Yeah, he's still involved with Delta's program back here. They always have tough kids coming through, and he's still.
Yeah, I think he's helping with the youth and stuff, right? Or is he helping with the high school too?
Yep, he's helping with the youth. I mean, they all help at all the levels, but he's mainly with the youth now. But yeah, it's good dude, good program. So yeah,
one of my favorite people.
Yeah. So going back to Legend of Gold, I guess what's that look like season? You have, like you said, athletes on campus, whatever you want to call it. And what's that season kind of look like? I guess from a day and then as a calendar year, what that program looks like.
Yeah, so basically we have what we call the IDA program, and that program is a full-time residential program that's really designated for grade 6 through 8, that we try to get guys in, and they stay here, they live here, they train here. And then what we do is try to get them prepared for high school. So, when we went to the OTC and we talked to a lot of the college coaches, we said, "Hey, what's missing in wrestling?" And they're like, "Look, the black hole of wrestling is junior high. It's the black hole of wrestling because you have states like South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, where 7th and 8th graders wrestle high school.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have small states like Iowa and Oklahoma and Colorado. Some of those guys and those junior high kids, they might get a 4-match schedule. So we're like, okay, what do we do to find to fill this gap? So we came up with this full-time residential program. The difference is we wanted to apply freestyle Greco into it. So we met with USA Wrestling and we went to the Olympic Training Center and the Greco guys bought in right away and they started sending coaches here. And then we started going to the OTC. So, that's kind of like where our middle school goes. Our senior level guys, obviously are a little different, especially right now during COVID without having worlds and some of the other things. It's definitely thrown gaps in our training cycle on what we do and how we do things. But our youth guys, they're pretty much round year. Some play football, some play baseball, just because they're kids and they like to do multiple things, and we support that. So, I think for the typical day for the IDA guys is way different than our senior level, and obviously different from our just regular club kids. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of different moving parts that go between our senior level, our IDA, our high school. We have guys that are still, trying to do U23s. We have guys trying to make junior world teams, and then our youth. So that day is spread out pretty much from about 5 a.m. to about 9 p.m.
Wow. So how do you keep those kids motivated? Obviously they're probably pretty self-driven, right? If they're coming there and living there, right? But they're kids, right? So are you having any unique approaches or philosophies to keep them kind of motivated? And if they're waking up, doing their schoolwork and training, whatever it is, it's probably a lot of the similar days, but is there anything you do differently to keep motivated?
Well, what we do is try to mix up our training as much as we can. We have 5 coaches on staff. We try to get a different coach in the room with those kids as much as we can every day, just so they don't get monotonous and mundane. And I think that's what happens with a lot of programs that train year round is they hear the same voice, and coaches don't want them going out and seeing other people and bringing in other clinicians. And I don't know if that's for their own insecurities or their own philosophical pieces. I don't know, but we mix our day up a lot. So we train with Sanford, which is one of the biggest hospital things in all the Midwest. So Sanford actually runs Power MMA. And so a lot of those guys, Ryan Bader, Gray Maynard, all those old school wrestling guys, Caldwell, all those guys train out of Sanford, the one in Phoenix, a couple other places. So we actually use their facility and we go up there multiple times a week. And we throw personal training at them, so they get a whole different level of it. So they'll get their personal training, they'll get a nutritionist that's on staff with them.
Wow.
And we just keep it completely mixed up to where the days try not to run into each other.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So how far is that from you guys?
About 30 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
So yeah, it's not bad. Their field house is amazing. Their facilities are amazing. I know Zeb's been up there a couple times, and it's definitely unique. They have one of the hydration chambers, only 3 in the United States. Gatorade owns one, Nike owns one, and then they own one. There may be more now. But basically, the kids can go in and they're self-assessed. So they put them on a bike. They change the height. They change the temperature and the humidity level in this chamber while the kids are sprinting, jogging, doing these things on bikes. And then what they do is they test your sweat level about every 5 to 7 minutes. And they put them in different vials. And then what they do is they're able to go take that, put it into their database, and it's able to tell our athletes how much potassium they're losing, how much salt they're losing, how much vitamin A, vitamin C, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So then what we're able to do is better give a nutritional value to each individual athlete based on what they're doing.
Wow.
Because everybody's body's different. And
Right.
so what we do is try to simulate rooms that would be in the same condition of a normal wrestling room. Some are really hot. Well, 90% of wrestling rooms are hot, right? And they're super humid. So what they do is try to figure out a good game plan to keep these kids hydrated and fresh during practices and after practices based off their training environment.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I recently had Jake Elkins on, and he was talking about the whole hydration piece and kind of how it's, how we handle it in college and high school is kind of not archaic, but it's not using the technology we have. I've never heard of something like that. That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Like I said, we're really lucky. They have their Sports Science Institute right there, and they've explored a lot of really cool things with our kids that that even some of our senior level Olympic guys don't get to don't get advantage of. And so we've definitely been fortunate to have partners such as them and to give these kids a unique experience that that doesn't bore the heck out of them every day.
Right. Do they have any unique perspectives on recovery? I know, a lot of people are focused on the training, but recovery, if you're, a wrestler, we know that's a key piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we do is try to work with that piece of what their individual need is. So we'll kind of take that scientific evidence of that individual, and then we'll know, like, okay, after practice, this kid needs this, and this kid needs this, and this kid needs this. So we try to give their recovery, and especially their meals, because we provide all their meals as well. So our cafeteria feeds them 3 times a day.
That's right.
So we try to gear meals based off of what we know that the kids need for energy level throughout the day. And then we're hoping that parents are providing them with snacks that they send that are good and positive and healthy, rather than a box of 80 bags of chips.
Right. So I've seen videos. You kind of touched on the whole cafeteria piece. How many people you have working at Legend of the Gold, or how does that whole system work? With cafeteria and the dorms. That sounds pretty comprehensive there.
Yeah, our dorms sleep 150 now.
Oh, wow.
So we can sleep 150 people, at one time. But my wife basically does all the cooking for
sweet.
all the meals. And then practice-wise, cleaning-wise, maintenance-wise, the rest of our coaches do it. So, all of us have a small part in playing a big piece. Nice. So, we kind of each take a chapter of the book and make sure that we have the right ending, and that's kind of where we're at.
Nice. So who are some of those coaches? Obviously, Zeb said your wife's an awesome lady, pretty cool. But who are some of the other pieces of that puzzle?
So Anthony Linares, he's been top 5, ranked the top 5 for a little bit. He was All-American college, wrestled at Northern Michigan. He's kind of our Greco guy. So he's here with our guys full time. We just added Sean Boyle from Edinburgh not too long ago. Sean's been with us for about 6 to 8 weeks now.
Oh, cool.
So, we have Sean that's doing a lot of the freestyle. I take a large part of the folk style. We have Leif Dominguez. He's from Gilroy, California. Malcolm Allen was a national runner-up at Mankato State, wrestled Iowa Central national runner-up there as well. He's our heavyweight guy, designated for the heavyweights. Tony Shunky coached at UNC, was an All-American there. He, so he has obviously some good college wrestling experience. He's here that works with our upper weights as well. And then I fill in the rest.
Wow. Sounds like a heck of a staff there. That's pretty cool. So I guess we kind of touched on, the day-to-day and working with Sanford, up at the hospital system and the MMA gym. I guess, what's your philosophy on competition? Some people like to start early. Some people start a little bit later. I guess what's Legends of Gold's and your philosophy on, sending them to tournaments and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that, some people have a set philosophy for everybody. I think that's a wrong approach because
Okay.
not everybody's the same.
Right.
I think you have to be able to individually look at kids and you have to say, okay, look, this kid needs a break.
Mhm.
Or you're like, okay, well, this kid's mental preparation, getting ready for these kind of tournaments don't work. We got to get him to more of those. And then we got to make that adjustment. Sometimes kids are going through a funk. So
Mhm.
you hold them out of a big tournament and you maybe put them in a small tournament, let them have some success. So for us, we're a little different than most people that just do a blanket or umbrella
Mhm.
competitive schedule. Now,
Okay.
obviously, we have our schedule set for the whole year,
Mhm.
but there's going to be things that we take out and pull out and individually move for each athlete based off of what their personal need is and where they're at.
Cool. So why South Dakota? You just talked about 6 inches of snow
Yeah,
yesterday,
man,
right?
not unbelievable. Yeah, it's the low tonight is 6 and the high today is 24. So,
Oh wow.
and I came from California. That made sense, right? Um, the biggest part is my son Cody had trained and took all of his D1 visits and a few extras and um, decided on South Dakota State.
Mhm.
So we were back here. We were looking we're just back here. Here's training, and my wife was here visiting my sister, who happened to live in town at that time. And she's like, "Oh, you should go see this old place that they're shutting down. That's all shut down. It's been closed down for a couple of years." So we came out, we checked it out, and I left this guy my card. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." So I leave, I go home, and I don't think anything about it. We're just out roaming around, saw this,
Mhm.
this 40-acre place that's for sale, and had some dorms, and we're like, it'd be cool to do a wrestling room, do like the, old wrestling. So we went home. We were in California, had great jobs, both working at the college, and then California went through a very, very hard economic time, and that's when they started furloughing employees.
Mhm.
Well, since my wife and I were both furloughed, uh, uh, she was, they said, "Don't worry about it. You're going to be good." Well, the first thing they did was cut her position. And then they came back to me and they're like, "Hey, we're going to cut your position. We're going to add to it. Your pay is going to go down. Your workload's going to go up." And I'm like, "Well, man, I don't think that's a great plan." Uh,
Mhm.
so I started looking and obviously I'd been a division one. I'd been a college coach at that point for, 15, 20 years. I'm like, all right, I'll just go back and coach college. So I started making a couple applications and was planning on moving out east kind of when this happened. And I get a phone call one night and this guy goes, "Hey, do you want to buy that place you were looking at?" I'm like, "Hey, bro, I don't have a job." I'm like, "I don't have a job. I'm trying to get myself in between. I just lost my job." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So 2 days later, he calls me again. And then he calls me again. And finally, I'm like, "Look, dude, I don't have a job.
Mhm.
I am in the middle of a job trying to get another job." And so that night, another guy calls me and he's like, "Hey, I'm Steve and I'm from I'm from LSS." I'm like, "Well, what's that?" "Luther Social Services." And I'm like, "Okay, what can I do for you?" He goes, "Well, our church actually owns the property. And what we would like to do is work with you because I heard that you work at a nonprofit. You wanted to do this as a nonprofit and help kids." Well, it used to be an old nursing home before that, way back in the
Okay.
early 1900s. This was an orphanage.
Mhm.
And so lots of people donated money to this facility. And they're
Okay.
like, "Look, we want this to go to a good cause. It's up for auction. We won't auction it if you're willing to buy it." I'm like, "Look, I don't have any money, man. I'm
Mhm.
in between a job. I don't know what I'm going to do." And he's like, "Look, you come up with what you can come up with, and we're going to cure your note for 5 years, 0% interest.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and we want to help you."
Mhm.
And so 5 years later, business was great. We're able to roll it over. And now obviously we've expanded, tenfold of what we were back then. Long story, but at the end of the road, I guess it shows you that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And you never, well, I don't know. Some people are religious, some people aren't. You can call it good luck. You could call it God sent. You can call it whichever you want. All I know, somebody or something was there to help my family, and that's how we've treated this ever since. Is a family to people, and tried to make it that environment.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, yeah, there's something or someone there, right? Kind of wanting you to have that property, right? If they're calling you, and then you kind of face that challenge of, okay, where am I going to do next with my, career? What am I going to do? That's pretty cool. So, I mean, at that time it looked like a, huge mountain, right? And probably a huge setback that propelled you. I guess we all have it. What kind of self-talk did you have during that time? Because that had to be tough, right? Kind of moving, taking a risk, we all have that self-talk, right? What was yours at that time?
You know what? I literally sat down and I talked to my wife, and she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. I said, this isn't a good business move. I've got a business degree, got a teaching degree. I'm like, okay, none of this makes sense. It's South Dakota. There's 2,000 people in this town. Wrestling, having a state champ in 30 years in the town. I don't know. And she's like, I think you can make it work if you want to make it work. And, so we sat down and we talked about it, and next thing you know, we were calling them and saying, okay, we're all in, and we've been all in since that day. And, 10 years later, we're still all in.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. Just one step at a time, right? And pretty cool. A lot of steps in between, right?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Some crawling, some crying.
Yes. Yeah.
Putting my hand out to the bank. Help me out, please. It's been it's been a struggle at times, but a struggle that obviously that we find well worth the amount of time and energy, for sure.
No, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. I grew up in a small business. My dad had a small business growing up, so I get it. I don't know all the little pieces, but I know that, I look back and I'm like, holy crap, he took a chance, when he had 4 kids and, this and that and moving business. And so I get it, not fully, but, from a little bit of understanding.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, you're a business guy, obviously these uncertain times, a lot of people, are uncertain and, afraid to take that risk or change whatever it is. Where do you kind of see Legends of Gold in, 5-10 years, or if it was up to you?
I think that we've slowly progressed to being a regular club, to being a bigger club, to adding senior level in, to the point where then we built a new building 7 years ago, to the point we built our brand new building now. That's 35,000 square feet. We actually hosted the largest tournament in the U.S. during COVID in July with 54 teams.
Is that Nick Simmons with Nick Simmons?
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
We wrestled a few times in college. Nick's a great guy.
Yeah, I figured you probably did.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
So Nick is great, man. We've got a great relationship with him, and so it was like one of those things that we've kind of expanded out to where now we have our event center. Now we have our other practice facilities. I guess my last step that I'd like to see before I'm done is we're going to try to make a move into the national preps. Nice. And that's the option that we're exploring right now. Obviously having Sean here with that Blair background is helpful for us to gain some other information on how they did things, how things worked. And if you're going to model yourself after anybody, that'd be a good one, right?
Right, for sure.
Good at that wrestling thing. so I think where we're at is that's my end all before I'm done, is I'd really like to, our facility's already built with classrooms, with 16 classrooms. Our facility's already built with dorms for 150 people. We've got the largest mat space in the country with 35,000 square feet, plus another 12,000 in our other building that's 20 feet away. So, we're 47,000 square feet of wrestling space, and our cafeteria now, our cafeteria seats 105 now. So we're at that point that's where I'd like to end my career, is being able to make that move, and add that to the Midwest, because there isn't one in the Midwest. They're all those things are located east and west, and it'd be my dream to give these kids, like all the Minnesota guys and Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, a place that they could go to that same type of facility, and be able to wrestle in the preps, and be able to do it a lot closer to home without having to send your kid to New Jersey from Nebraska. So I think that's a hard decision for kids and for parents.
Right. So, in building Legends of Gold, did you have certain people besides your wife you kind of relied on as mentors or kind of partners or anything like that, kind of to keep you moving along?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've never developed a partner, but we've definitely developed a network of friends and coaches. I've been super blessed in my career to be around great kids and great coaches and great parents, and we've used those networks together. When I got here, I have a local friend. One of my best friends, actually from high school, only lives about 30 minutes from here.
Oh, cool.
And he came every single day, and he helped me paint, he helped me clean, he helped me fix. And then we got parents involved, and the parents became, so I don't like to say that there's a specific person that did it. I would say that it's a network of people that saw an opportunity in our state. I mean, think about this. There was no private club in this entire state of South Dakota until I got here.
Wow.
And private clubs were everywhere but South Dakota. And just to be honest, they still don't like it. The small town communities think that you're stealing their kids, that that you're glorifying yourself. And in all actuality, I mean, what a small mind. Not to realize that it's such a great resource that we're sending kids to college every single year out of this facility.
That's awesome.
They don't, and they're not going to college as Legends of Gold. They're going to college under Canton High School, the Brandon Valley, Vermilion, and Roosevelt. But I think the small-mindedness of small towns sometimes will definitely can make it hard.
Challenging, I'm sure, right? So, talking about challenges, right? Open up a new facility, is that right?
Yes.
So what's going on with that? Was it in Iowa? Is that right? Or where's?
Yeah, so we have a new place in Iowa. It's about 4.5 mats. And it's in Sibley. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from here. But there's obviously a need in that Northwest Iowa area for something. And that area is kind of desolate for the extra opportunities. So we catch all those Minnesota guys. The Minnesota border's about 10 minutes from there. So we definitely were able to catch a new variety of people. We've only been open. This is only our second week right now.
Oh, wow.
But our first night we had 56 people. So for a small town, and that's all rural area. There's no, it's all rural. So to have 56 people on the first night, I was beyond impressed with the amount of people that came and the support to catch it that quick.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I'm sure it's a challenge, especially in these times, but it's a time to make the moves and keep pushing forward. Kind of known as the Legends of Gold guy, right? Not that it defined you, but before Legends of Gold, did you have a moment that kind of shaped your identity and who you are and put you in this position with Legends of Gold?
I go way back, and not to be on the sad story or anything, but my mom and dad were divorced when I was really young. Uh, didn't have came from an abusive house with my father. My mom worked 3 jobs to be able to provide us anything that she could, and we struggled, and I couldn't go to wrestling camps because I never had the money.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many things I wanted to do that I couldn't do. But I had a high school coach that Jack Harrison that changed my life
Mm-hmm.
because he was the guy that was there every day, that cared about me, treated me like his own son. Heck, he came to my wedding, years and years later, and he's still, he's that guy that I wanted to emulate, so to speak, because he made me feel like I was somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it started. And then when I went to Westmar University, Iowa Central obviously had a big impact on me as a coach with Mark Ostrander and Danny Frederick. But Milt Martin was the coach at Westmar University when I wrestled there. And the coolest part is the guy never wrestled.
Oh, wow.
And I had a son then coming in. I'd already went to the Marine Corps, and I came back and went to college. I still remember Milt calling me, and he says, he goes, "I know you're going to go to UNO." And I'm like, well, and obviously UNO was the place to go back then. And a lot of our Iowa Central guys went there. And Milt's like, you have a son, and you have a family. And I get that you want to win a national title, but I can help you do that. And I can help you do it with a family.
Awesome.
And obviously not coming from a broken family with being younger,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to learn a lot about people, and from my high school coach and my Iowa Central coaches and Westmar coaches to help me form kind of the idea that I wanted to help. And, when we did this, we decided it was a nonprofit. And people told me that that's foolish. You can't pay yourself. You can't do these things. You can't do that. You can make so much more money doing it the other way. We spend $15,000 a year on scholarships, giving kids free wrestling camp.
Awesome.
So I wouldn't say there's a particular person, but I would definitely say that I've been super blessed in my life to be around coaches and to have a mom that taught me hard work,
Mm-hmm.
perseverance, family, and I was super lucky.
That's awesome. That definitely shaped you, in more ways than you realized probably at the time, right? And
Right,
now you get to be that, figure for these kids, right? That are, at your facility, and, hear coaches complain, "Oh, if I didn't have to deal with parents, it'd be great." You hear that all the time, or whatever it is, parents ruin it for the
I think
kids.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, you got a great model then, right? You get them away from the parents, right?
Start locking them on the outside of the door. I don't know.
Yeah. But that creates a whole nother dynamic, right? You have these young kids coming, around the country, coming to your place to stay, and then they're having a bad day, or parents are wondering about them, whatever it may be, and now you're providing that perspective for them. Talk about that a little bit, and kind of the impact you're making, whether you see it every day, or kind of reflect, oh man, I guess I did make an impact on this kid. Like, what's that, a little different than a traditional coach.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of weird because, excuse me, because you're not, you're playing so many roles. You're not,
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a normal practice where you see these kids from 6 to 7:30 at night and the story's over.
Right.
I mean, we've had kids from Pennsylvania, Colorado, Nebraska, Ohio. I mean, we've had them from everywhere around the country coming here to live.
Right.
And, we've been so fortunate in California that have all been here, and everybody comes from a different environment, right? So I think the biggest part for us was to provide for lack of better terms, a cultural need
Mm-hmm.
and diversity that allowed our kids to still be themselves, while developing a philosophy of like, okay, this is what teammates do. This is
Mm-hmm.
what good people do. This is what your actions posed via someone else. So it goes way outside of my realm of coaching into where you have to, when prime example, we have a kid broke up with his girlfriend. He's sitting in his room crying. He's 13 years old. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know, you
Right.
know, I love her. Oh, well, you're 13. You probably don't,
Right.
but you do. But those are conversations. You got to wear a lot of different hats. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
super fortunate that my wife is able to wear that hat. And I'm
That's
super
awesome.
fortunate that my coaches are able to do the same. So it's definitely unique compared to a normal traditional coach. I think all coaches care about their kids. I think all coaches, I didn't want it to come off that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of them have interaction with their kids outside of there. But when they live with you 24/7, 365 days a year, obviously that relationship becomes different.
Right. Right. And it's something now you're around them, all day, every day. So it's definitely unique. And to be able to handle that and stay motivated on your part is, pretty tough. So, and like you said, lucky you're surrounded by your wife and those coaches. That's pretty cool. Um, Here we are, end of October, in the fall, what's the winter look like? You guys got a unique situation because you're kind of right isolated, right, from everybody with this, everything going on. What are you guys doing, going forward right now? And what's the plan?
Yeah, I think that we were fortunate. I mean, we're in a state with a governor that believes, and I don't want to get into a whole political mess, but
Right. Right.
I think we're in a state with a governor that believes in freedom, that
Mhm.
believes in letting people make decisions that are sound and fundamental for their own safety.
Mhm.
And obviously, we had to go through a lot of hoops to jump through to work with our county and our city and our CDC to make sure that we were able to stay open. But, we've stayed open since April 17th. We closed for 14 days and we've been completely full. And we've had kids provided from around the United States because at one point, for over about 55 days, we were the only place legally open
Wow.
in the United States. So we had guys from Virginia, California, Florida, New Mexico. Oh my gosh, I mean, you name it, we had that on campus this year. And that's where we're at right now. We still have a lot of kids that they're trying to figure out their seasons. We have about 6 California kids here right now that have been here training with us for about the last month and a half while they're doing online school. So really, I'd like to tell you the answer to that question, like what's it going to look like? I don't know what's going
Right.
to look like.
Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows.
This COVID thing is throwing a wrench in youth wrestling.
Mhm.
It's throwing a wrench in college wrestling,
Right.
and obviously we don't know what it's going to do with high schools
Mhm.
because the numbers are growing as
Mhm.
far as people getting it, and I think each state and each school district is. Um, Making independent decisions, which is making it even harder for people
Right. Mhm.
because they're not even able to be involved in the decisions. And
Mhm.
the nice thing with us is because we're a private facility, because we're rural in the middle of nowhere on 40 acres, we have the ability to bring kids in. And for lack of like for the summer, everybody joked with me, Simmons and all those dudes, and they called me the wrestling bubble of America. Because they were going to do the basketball bubble. That was before that
Right.
stuff even happened.
Yeah, right.
But that's what people said. We're going to put them in a bubble. We're going to fight island. So I guess, I'm wrestling island or wrestling bubble.
That's nice.
So I think that we're going to have that part
Mhm.
no matter what. How that looks and what a competition schedule looks like, I don't know. But
Right.
I think we're going to be open. In fact, I know we're going to be open. I know we're going to be able to provide these opportunities. It's just going to be to who and where we're providing those to. That'll make up the big difference of it all.
Cool. So I'm from Ohio. If I'm coming out to visit, you said it's kind of very rural. Where do I have to stop to visit? Non-COVID. Where do I stop and
Right
visit?
there, man. Look, I'm right with the. I'm the next president in line, bro. I'm right.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
dude, it's so crazy. Yeah, man, this state is just so weird. It's like you got this eastern side of the state that's like barren, plain, and boring, and then you get to the western side of the state and the Black Hills, and there's mountains, there's hills, there's the Badlands, there's Mount Rushmore. There's so crazy horse. The culture of like our Native Americans, we've got a couple families that are really involved in that, and they're Native American, and
Cool.
Man, the culture is super cool. So if you're ever gonna come to South Dakota, I definitely suggest visiting the western side of the state.
Okay, cool. All right, I've never been, but here, obviously.
Well, it's time, man.
It is. I'm pretty close with Zeb. Everybody knows that, and that visiting you kind of inspired him to move, where he lives in Ohio, and
that's what he said.
And my brother just moved there not even a month ago, about 5 miles down the road. So I just visited my brother up there, and I tell you, I came home and tell my wife, like, oh my gosh, you should see, my brother's place. It's not like where we're at in Ohio at all. And it's amazing, what a little hour and a half drive can change.
No doubt.
It's pretty wild. So, you have anything you want to share, ask, tell, anything you want to talk, anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm a wrestling guy. I love wrestling.
Right.
I could talk wrestling for hours. I think where I'm at right now in my career is I've changed from being that younger coach that was 100% driven by winning. And don't get me wrong, I like to kick people's ass. Yeah. I still like to. It motivates me and it makes me do it. Nobody that's bad at something likes doing it.
Right.
And we've fortunately been around a lot of winning in every program I've been in. But I think as I've got older, the thing that I've kind of changed on a little bit is just trying to make sure that you look at everybody and you look at everything with an open mind. Mm-hmm. You don't make a judgment of Legends of Gold because they're the only private club in your state. You don't make a judgment of Perler because how he does things. Mm-hmm. You don't make a judgment because you don't like Buxton or Blair Academy and that they're cheaters, or that St. Paris Graham's a cheater. I think in wrestling, what I've learned is it's a small world. We all talk about that, right? Wrestling's a small world. Well, guess what, man? We're killing ourselves. We're squeezing our own throats. Mm-hmm. We're talking about programs being dropped, multiple programs in a year, and then we all want to blame each other.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is we're all to blame because nobody can see past their own nose to see that there's a bigger picture. Not everybody's. And look, it's kind of like a book. And I was just talking to our kids about this last night. I'm like, a book has lots of different chapters, lots of different chapters. And each chapter can be a different person, different characters, and different pieces. But there's only one ending of a book. Mm-hmm. There's one ending at the book. It's not multiple. When you go see a horror movie, certain people die, certain people get left out, certain people are this, but there's one ending of the movie. Right. And we've got to figure out that there's one ending and that we can all have a bunch of different chapters in the book. But man, if we can't get on page to make that ending, we're putting ourselves in a hell of a bind to make it a horror story or make it the greatest story on earth. Right. And the resurrection of wrestling. Or are we on the other end because we're so worried about hating each other and hating wrestling and what that club does and what this club does and how Terry Pack does it? I don't like him. Well, I don't like Dean Taylor. Well, I don't like Jeff Miller. I don't like Flo. Who cares who you like or don't like? Respect each other and understand that at the end of the day, the ending is going to be the same for all of us,
Right.
no matter how we decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's kind of where I'm at in my career. And I just wish that people could, with open mind, look to see that you can have different philosophies in different ways, but we can still have the same outcome and the same ending.
Right. That's a good point. Coach years ago put to me, he's like, one of the problems with wrestling is we eat our own, eat our young, it's like we need to build each other up. So I guess you talk about the book. What in the current landscape of wrestling across the country, what's some chapters that are missing that I think that could propel that to a better ending?
I was talking, I actually made some people mad last week. We were talking about Fresno, and I lived in California for 9 years. I coached with all their national staff. And I worked with a couple of the programs there. And I think the part that we're missing is, like, all these people want to be retroactive.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to diagnose a disease after they have it.
Mm-hmm.
How about we prevent it? We could have done so many things. I'm like, well, how many season tickets did you buy at Fresno? These are people that are on there bashing everyone. Well, if you bought season tickets, well, I don't live there. Okay, but you online season tickets, you could have supported the program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't. Oh, okay, so now you're making an excuse for yourself while you're complaining about someone else.
Right.
I mean, I think where we're at in wrestling, man, is I think the page that we're missing is like we just talked about before with coaches not being able to respect each other's way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you John Smith doesn't like the Iowa program. Iowa doesn't necessarily like the Oklahoma State program, and
Right.
Arizona State, et cetera, et cetera. But they're all trying to get the same ending.
Right.
And we're missing that chapter, and we're missing the chapter of our fans and our people understanding they can do things for wrestling without having to be there for do wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, buy season tickets, go buy a dang t-shirt when they put them online. Look,
right.
There's colleges I don't like. I'm not gonna tell you who it is, because then I get some phone calls.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can tell you this. I have wore people's stuff that I don't like.
Right. Right.
Because it supports wrestling.
Right. No. Yep.
I have brought people to campus out of programs that I don't necessarily like. And we've had over 50 D1 clinicians on our campus. And
you've had the top. You've had the top in the country, right? You've had the top.
Yeah, man, we've had everybody. Right. Snyder, Burroughs.
And anyone you haven't had? Not to change subject, but anyone you want to have that you haven't had yet?
I've known David since he was a kid. He's really the kids really would like to see David Taylor in at some point, and that's our next round to work with.
Nice.
So that's kind of that's our missing link that we're going to try to bring in this past summer.
Mm-hmm.
But COVID obviously threw
Right.
a wrench in all
Right.
of that. So.
Right.
But no, man, I just think that there's a way of doing this with wrestling that we can get on the same page without necessarily having to be on the same page, if that makes sense.
No, it makes 100% sense. I mean, everyone thinks there has to be an enemy to get ahead, right? That's in our natural, DNA and thought process, psychology, whatever. Like, oh, it's us versus them, right, or whatever it is. And talking to Mark Neiman, a guy here in Columbus, Ohio, he traveled like an hour to get his car washed by another local club. It wasn't his club. He went and drove an hour to get his car washed, or go to this, fundraiser food drive or whatever it is, because he was supporting wrestlers. And
Right.
we're so quick to spend $60-80 for a UFC card, and then we complain when a card's not free, right? We expect wrestling to be free, and until we break that model of donate to this wrestling program, like, no, you shouldn't have to donate. You should be supporting them, buy their t-shirts, buy their live streams, whatever it is. Not instead of, well, why are they charging $20, but you're going to go out to, and spend this money elsewhere. And until we support each other, and it's not going to change. But I think we're on the right path, with the media streaming and, the personalities we're seeing in wrestling now. I think we're on the right path, and, I think girls wrestling is going to be a big part of that. We're getting more eyeballs on the sport, and, faster that, progresses as it is, I think it's going to be healthier all around. It's, we all got to be doing it together. We're going to be tearing each other down, but I think we're all on the same path, and we'll come out on the other end of this, I think, stronger and better, and we'll get it figured out. So I'm confident.
I think you're right, man. I think we're at the point that people are starting to see some different viewpoints, and that people are understanding that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and that and we can do it together. And that's what I hope, man. I really hope for all of our sakes that the kids that I'm coaching right now that are kindergartners get a chance to wrestle in college, when they're 18, because we don't know. I mean, with the way things are going, and we just got to figure it out together, man. There's not a specific answer. It's got to be a group effort.
That's I guess another question. So the resident athletes you have, they're not allowed to compete in the state tournament there. Is that right?
That is correct.
So how, is that something you're trying to work on, or is it just they're pretty set in a decision, or how's that work?
It's, without like wanting to say all kinds of things. Our state is very good old boy.
Okay.
It has always been one way. They never had private clubs. We don't need private clubs. We don't need this. Well, they're resting on the laurels of a Logan Storley and a Kokish. And there ain't been one of those in a long time. And they're few and far in between. And, they just feel like they can still do it the old way. And they think that private clubs isn't the way. And unfortunately, the way that it works here is the high school coaches they form an advisory committee that basically sends their thoughts, messages, whatever, they're in the same building, to the South Dakota Athletic Association.
Okay.
Who in turn makes the recommendations to, their little
back
board.
To the schools. Yeah.
And it's just not well, it's not well received. Private wrestling is not well received. Now, since I've been here, there's 2 other private clubs that have popped up. Okay. 4 if you count with us and Stampede. So I believe that is doable, but they believe that there's an inherent advantage of people that live on campus that train and wrestle. So even though that they have a charter school, that would be, you can't go there unless you go to church, use Sunshine Bible School. They're allowed to wrestle. They have the boys ranch that's allowed to wrestle. They're allowed to run track and field, but none of them have private wrestling clubs that started prior.
Gotcha.
So due to that conflict, they believe that it's too much of an advantage to let someone live here and train wrestling and wrestle in the high school state tournament. So that is why my next piece that, like we talked about earlier, that I want to see before it's all said and done is a place, and that we're not the only state like that around here. Iowa's lived off of private clubs for the last 15 years. Siebel, Ubasa, et cetera, Nebraska, MWC, so many of these now have developed, North Dakota, Minnesota, Pinnacle, Perler. I mean, just so many great facilities around that are not giving the opportunity for those kids. So, just to revert back, I guess, that's why I want to make this last piece of my legacy, if you want to call it a legacy, I don't know, maybe call it a travesty, depending on who you are. I think the last piece I want is to get this prep school going for high school kids that feel like they live in South Dakota and North Dakota and Minnesota and Iowa, and that want that opportunity to go the next level of high school, but don't want to go or can't afford Blair Academy, Wyoming Seminary. They don't want to be thousands of miles from home. that's my last piece of where I'm at before I take my shoes off and sit under the mat and call it a day.
Nice. Cool. That's awesome. No, good luck with that. And, obviously you're doing the right things. So I'm sure that's going to happen sooner than later. So got the right people involved, it sounds like, and a great group of people and nice momentum there. So, well, thanks, Coach, for your time, man.
Hey,
Anything
man,
else? Anything else you have? Or
no, man, I just wish I wish everybody a good Thanksgiving, a good Christmas, and one hell of a wrestling season. And let's just all battle through this COVID thing together. And I hope everybody has a healthy full season of wrestling.
Nice. Yeah, same here. Thanks, Coach.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. Take care.
If you like the show, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast channels. If you didn't, shoot us a DM and let us know who you'd like to hear from.